Hello, this is the Harboring Light. I'm Mary. I give a conservative perspective about the world around me. So, feedback is greatly important. Feel free to reach out to me, and I'll have those links provided for you. And guess what? I have launched my shop, Shopify, and you can support and see my crafted work on Shopify. I'll have that link provided for you in this episode and in the continuing episodes in the future. All right, so some of the audio platforms that I'm on Spreaker, I'm on Spotify, I'm on Pandora, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, just to name a few. So it's Friday, so I'm focusing in on the listeners out there. This week is fashion from Albania. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to get into thoughts, before I get into the facts and all of that. So, it's quite interesting when there's culture, specifically with Albanian culture, that, appreciates and has implements of modern culture. But the staple and the bread and butter of the foundation of the culture is the traditions, and holding true to the traditions and making sure that it's prevalent and it's passed on to generations to generations to generations and so forth. So what does that say about that? It says a lot to me. It says about the values of the importance of why things are the way they are, and understanding that. So I equate it to this scenario here. So, for instance, in modern culture here, it is popular to say the aspects of masculinity of the male, the male figure, where it has to be, where that is with just the leisurely being a male, or that has to do with the work ethic of being male, or that has to do with raising a family and so forth. It's considered somewhat offensive in some ways, which is strange. But traditionally, the male and the female, they coexist with one another. They balance out one another, and they're very helpful to the fabric of the production of a truly strong society. And so that's very innate and implemented in cultures that value that, specifically when I'm getting to the aspects of Albania here with fashion and the aspects of what they symbolize. So to expand this out even more so let's say this scenario too, let's say how the world works and how things are placed in the world. 9 times out of 10, most of the time, a lot of the jobs that are out there and that of sustainability, and that helps the flow of our society to run better and more efficiently, men are predominantly in those roles. When you get in the aspects of the water drainage system Those are, of course they have women, in leadership roles with that. But the majority of the fact is the building and the implementing of the mechanetry of the engineering and the civil engineering of how it flows and works with the city. Those are male jobs here, male-oriented jobs. And there's countless examples of everything. And then, men risking their lives doing these laborious jobs to risk their lives to, in itself, be the upheaval of progress for modernity. There's a lot of examples of that. So, to wrap up simply, there's a lot of honor in cultures, even though, they understand and they have the appreciation, of the world around them. They understand the importance of the stability of tradition. With that said, I'm going to get into the facts and then expand on the AI-generated facts by some more facts that I found on the details and the symbolism within the colors and everything of Albanian clothing. Here we go. Okay, so Albanian fashion history. Albanian fashion history is a rich tapestry of cultural influences and regional variations. The earliest clothing tradition in the region now known as Albania can be traced back to the Illyrians, the indigenous people of the Balkans. The Illyrians' clothing featured garments made from locally sourced materials such as wool, linen, and often incorporated with simple designs and decorations. During the Roman and Byzantine periods, Albanian clothing styles were influenced by fashions of these empires. So the clothing became more refined with influences from toga and chiton. Roman and Byzantine jewelry and accessories were also incorporated in the clothing. One of the most significant influences on Albanian clothing came during the centuries of the Ottoman rule from 15th century to the 20th century. This period saw the introduction of elements like turbans, veils, and the use of bright and vibrant colors in clothing. Albanian traditional clothing, known as the vestchit traditional, includes more than 500 different varieties of clothing across Albania and the Albanian-speaking territories and communities, including that extends into Italy and in Greece and nations and so forth like that. Almost every cultural and geographical region in the country has its own specific variety of customs that vary in detail, material, color, shape, and form. So traditional Albanian clothing is often decorated with some symbolic elements, and that is of pagan oriented, such as suns, eagles, moons, stars, and snakes. Fabrics are traditionally made by weaving clothing using looms. Okay, so here we go with pagan aspects of culture. So I find it quite interesting, specifically when you get into aspects of Christianity and aspects of monotheism here. So, paganism isn't seen in the best light. And so, on the surface level, it's seen as, there's something cabal or something that's just that is of deviant culture. But if you want to and to take the time to really understand something here, there's some more. There's not more to it than that. Like everything else, if you want to do your research about it and figure it out and draw conclusions for yourself, that you start to piece together the aspects of our culture and how things work within it, and why things are why things are. Oh, sorry about that. Going off some message here. I gotta stay on top of everything that's going on in my children's school, and I appreciate the messages. How essentially my point here being is it's a learning tool of how things work and why things and the mistakes and figuring out and moving forward. And then there's something to the aspects of the rituals of the paganism and then what is that rooted to, and that's what kind of traditions is that associated with, really, when you figure these things out. And then it goes back to the time of far back ancient ruins and how these civilizations came to be great civilizations, and why people still look towards and they're still referencing our culture today. There's a reason for it. And then, there's something to be said about the aspects of that being implemented into a specific culture, and then, and in reference to Albanian history. All right, so I'm going to, for instance, Fustanilas, a traditional skirt-like garment worn by men. And for instance, it got long pants worn by men, and then garments worn by men, both in women. The burski. Excuse me for a minute. Sorry about that. And then you got the woolen hat worn in southern Albania. And a lot of this has to do with the aspects of, again, the elements and how to dress accordingly with it. So here's a few symbolic imagery with Albanian traditional clothing and what that means. So red symbolizes courage, vitality, and passion. It is believed to ward off evil spirits and bring good fortune. Black represents strength, resilience, and respect for the ancestors. It's often used in mourning garments and worn by the elders. So white symbolizes purity, peace, and innocence. It is frequently incorporated into women's clothing, especially during special occasions like weddings. And so again, symbolism, specifically with colors, that's a very interesting concept here. Everything is not the same when that translates to other cultures. For instance, in Asian cultures, white is worn, if I'm not mistaken, white is worn traditionally in the aspects of mourning. Well, not mourning, with funerals or the spirituality of that. So, in the essence of mourning, it's not seen as this somber thing here. It's seen as the rejuvenation of the spirit is going on to another form, is going on to, another way. It's not of the earth anymore. It's of something else completely unbeknownst to our recollection or understanding. And and there's the Eastern philosophy of putting all that stuff together. When you get into the spirituality of Taoism, you get the aspects of the Buddha and everything else. But for the most part, it's seen as a celebration of life when you pass on. It's not seen as this mournful thing. And it's quite interesting when you use color to symbolize different meanings throughout culture, and how to not understand that changes the interpretation of everything too within each color. Each color coordinated aspects of symbolism. And that also in itself says a lot about the culture when things are misinterpreted, of what the value systems are into things. All right, so while modern fashion trends have influenced Albania, traditional clothing remains deeply cherished. It is often worn during national holidays, weddings, and cultural festivals, bringing a vibrant slash of color and tradition to these occasions. For fashion shows and exhibitions have also contributed to the resurgence of interest in Albanian traditional clothing, showcasing the beauty and craftsmanship of these garments. All right, so here's more info. Traditional clothing for men in Albania. Man's traditional attire in Albania is stunning in a blend of practicality and symbolism. So the clothing is not just worn for ceremonial purposes, but it also has deep-rooted ties to the country's history and values. So here it's listing there are some essential elements of traditional male dress in Albania. The fustanila, the pleated skirt. So what is this? It's one of the most iconic pieces in Albanian men's traditional attire, which is the fustanila, the white pleated skirt, which resembles a kilt, which was initially worn by warriors. Over time, it became a ceremonial garment. It's made out of cotton or wool. The fustanila is typically knee-length and features deep pleats. It is worn over pants or along, depending on the occasion. All right, moving on to this, the sleeves jacket. So, sleeve jacket, usually made from wool. This garment is often decorated with intricate embroidery, making it both a functional and stylish piece of clothing. So this sleeve jacket is typically worn over a shirt or tunic, and is an essential part of the Albanian man's traditional wardrobe. So the wide leather belt. Another notable feature of Albanian male attire is a wide leather belt. The accessory is often worn over the fustanila or pants. Apart from the decorative purpose, it is also serving a practical role by holding tools or weaponry, which showcase its utilitarian roots. The belt is frequently decorated with metal or leather or ornaments, further adding to its visual appeal. So the traditional hat, the kappa, I believe the pronunciation of that, I'm trying my best there, is a traditional Albanian hat made from wool or felt, often in red or black. The design of the kappa varies by region, and it holds great cultural significance. It is traditionally worn by men in many Albanian villages and is often paired with other garments as part of formal or festive attire. So leather shoes. Traditional Albanian shoes made from leather typically feature pointed shoes. So these shoes are meticulous, handmade, and often adorned with intricate patterns or decorations. They are not only practical for everyday wear, but also contribute to the overall aesthetic of traditional Albanian male attire. All right, so here we go with traditional clothing for women in Albania. While man's traditional attire in Albania is excuse me. Renowned for its symbolism and functionality, women's clothing are equally impressive with focus on vibrant colors, luxurious fabrics, and elaborate embroidery. So the fustana, which is a long dress. So the fustanan is a long dress that forms the basis of women's traditional clothing in Albania, made from fine silk, cotton, or wool. The fustana is often richly embroidered with colorful thread. So the design usually depicts floral patterns or geometric shapes, each carrying a specific regional or familiar significance. In some areas, fustana is worn with a matched apron, which enhances its aesthetic and adds in an additional layer of cultural symbolism. So the fitted vest. The fitted vest that is for women, they wear over their fustanan. It's made from materials like velvet or wool, and it's adorned with intricate beadwork, embroidery, or metal accents. It is often designed to highlight the waist, and it is an essential part of Albanian women's traditional attire. The garment is not only decorative, but also serves to represent the woman's social status and personal style. Yes, again, like I was saying, when you wear clothing, again, it's in itself language. You're a walking billboard of what you think, what your thought processes are about yourself and the world around you, how you place yourself, where you place your values. And that's very apparent when we get into the nuts and bolts of traditional clothing and countries that value tradition, because then in itself they're saying a lot of aspects of what's the valued meaning of their place within their status of importance, of what they're contributing to the legacy of their heritage. And then how that extends out into, class structure too. And then, a lot of people want to say that racism is a prevalent part of, specifically in American culture, that's very prevalent. I would say that it's mostly, that doesn't really matter as much. It matters to people who are strange or who are ignorant, just don't get it. But I think what really, what people don't want to admit to, they try to put airs about it, is status. And that's something that's across the board, in every culture. You break everything down to the heart of the matter is who your family is, where you come from. If you're poor, if you have affluency, that rules everything. And that really places you in the type of life you're going to live and have for your future, or if you have a future. In some cases, it's unfortunate, in your European culture, there are some European cultures where, you can never get out of what your family was or what your family is. That's just it for you. And that's something to think about. All right, so, that's that, and then on the flip side of that, that's how you want to live your life, so be it. But if you want something different, you can't really make your way out of it, because that's your family is who you are, and that's what you will be for the rest of your life. All right, so the headdress. The kish is a traditional headdress worn by Albanian women. It is typically made of silk or wool and decorated with silver or gold coins. This headpiece signifies the wearer's marital status and is often a significant part of the bride's outfit in traditional Albanian weddings. The design of the kish can vary greatly by region, with some areas using more elaborate ornamentations. Woolen socks. Woolen socks that in Albania for women traditionally are worn with their shoes. These socks often feature colorful patterns and are considered an important part of the traditional attire. The intricate designs reflect the wearer's regional background and are passed down through generations, often with each family having their own unique style. So the woolen cloak. This woolen cloak worn by Albanian women during colder months. It provides warmth and protection from the elements, but like many traditional garments, it also carries cultural and familiar significance. In some regions, it is worn with a hood, adding to its practical and symbolic nature. So, cultural and religious significance of traditional clothing. Traditional clothing in Albania goes beyond mere fashion. It is a powerful symbol of cultural and religious identity. Each garment is deeply embedded in the culture's history and serves as a reflection of social structure, values, and beliefs. Here are some examples. The Albanian clothing is a testament to the rich history of tradition of the country. The patterns, colors, and materials used in each garment often reflect the wearer's regional background and social class and family heritage. So, for instance, certain embroidery designs are unique to specific regions, with each motif telling a story about the wearer's ancestry. Additionally, clothing is often a way for Albanians to express pride in their heritage, especially during national festivals, celebrations, and weddings. So, religious influences. Religious practices have also played a significant role in shaping traditional Albanian clothing. So, for instance, the way women wear their headscarves or the inclusion of certain symbols on garments may be influenced by local religious beliefs. In regions where Islam is predominant, modesty is often reflected in the clothing, with women's garments being designed to cover the body fully. On the other hand, Orthodox Christian Albanians may have different styles of religious symbols incorporated in their attire, showcasing the blend of cultural and religious traditions. Modern influence on traditional fashion in Albania. In today's world, our traditional Albanian clothing is not just worn on special occasions, but also inspired by modern fashions. Trends. Many designers are incorporating elements of traditional Albanian attire in their contemporary collections, fusing old world charm with modern sensibility. So today, many Albanian women and men wear traditional clothing as a way to celebrate their cultural identity, even in everyday settings. So, for example, modern versions of the fustanila and fustan are now being worn with contemporary accessories, making them more accessible and practical for younger generations. So if you want to learn more, there is more facts in this article that I will provide for you in this episode. Also, I'd like to know what you think about the aspects of traditional clothing and fashion and how that is implemented into culture. Feel free to reach out to me, and those links will be provided for you. All right, so this reaches the end of the Harboring Light. Tune in, turn up, and absolutely take care. Bye-bye for now.